Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah, today we will continue reading the first word. Um, and inshallah, I will try to moderate and with everyone's help. Biiznillah. I think before we get started, so we didn't actually make it too far last week, but we can maybe give a quick summary of the things we did kind of talk about the previous 2 weeks. So the topic, is Bismillah. We've been talking about Bismillah, and we have been talking about how, let's go from the start. It's the start of all things good. How when I say Bismillah, when I live, or when I make the intention of Bismillah, meaning like in the name of God, in the name of like my Creator, in the name of something, like things are not speaking only of themselves, but rather they are messengers. Everything is pointing towards its maker. Everything has a quality that it reflects. So in the name of the beauteous one, in the name of the one who created this with engineering and form and is sustaining things. So when I approach something with Bismillah like this, I start to see good. Or it's the only way, or maybe it's the only way to be able to see good, because things by themselves, a term we had used were like humans are bankrupt. If I go to another human for help, a human by themselves, it's bankrupt. They can't really help me because that human also is going to die. It could be a billionaire, it could have everything in the world, but one virus and they're dead. They break their leg, or they just grow old and die after 80 years. Like there isn't really much they can do. Like even the most powerful human you can imagine, like you go to them and in their own name, if you ask for them, their power is so limited. Actually, if you ask them to like help you in your relationship with like let's say like a family member, I remember last week we were talking about changing people's minds, or actually it was this week. But if you ask like this billionaire, this most powerful person, can you change the mind of my friend or this family member? Like I need them to change their mind on something. I guarantee you, like that's not the way. Like they could throw away money and maybe they can act like they changed their mind, but their power is so limited as a human. And if you go to other things, like maybe you think money is where your solution is, or all these other things. I don't want to get too detailed right now, but whenever you go to something and only see it for itself, then there isn't really much good you can extract from there. But when you approach it with Bismillah, when you see the name of the Creator there, when you see the qualities that it's manifesting, and these qualities speak to you of a Creator, and there's a purpose there are messages there's a speech, a communication you engage with the one who made you, then this is the start of all things good. This is where now you can start seeking more. You can start this path of reading that we have been created for. And it says that this is recited by all beings through their tongues of disposition. You might say, I don't hear them saying Bismillah, or you're just making it up, or this is just a fantasy. Oh, you need to take some. You have to go to the Amazon, take some plant drugs or whatever, and then you'll finally hear it. You could say something like this, but no, that's the reality. Like I don't need to go and take some drugs, or I don't need to go into some crazy dream or state to be able to witness this. This is just me looking at, literally, I could look at a wall. It's more difficult with a wall, but I could look at a plant, I could look at a flower, I could look at everything around me. I could hear a bird singing in the morning, and all of these things, they speak of qualities to me. They're saying, like, they are a manifestation of qualities. Like a bird singing is a manifestation of joy, of happiness, of beauty, of cuteness. It's just like all these qualities. You can't deny that they exist. And since these qualities can't exist by themselves, and they have been placed there, then they also, through the tongue of disposition, basically they're speaking in the name of their Creator. Is one way we can understand that. And then if you want to know what an inexhaustible strength, what an unending source of bounty is Bismillah, listen to the following story, which is in the form of a comparison. It goes like this. So, yeah, I guess unless someone else would like to make comments about just like the summary for the past 2 weeks, we can continue reading with the journey. We can start from the second paragraph and then go about through the journey again. Okay. If Atik was here, I would ask him to read, but I don't think he's here. Atik, are you hiding somewhere? Okay, then inshallah, I will read, because I would not like to impose my power on others. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'll start from the second paragraph. Someone who makes a journey through the deserts of Arabia has to travel in the name of a tribal chief and enter under his protection. For in this way, he may be saved from the assaults of bandits and secure his needs. On his own, he will perish in the face of innumerable enemies and needs. And so two men went on such a journey and entered the desert. One of them was modest and humble, the other proud and conceited. The humble man assumed the name of a tribal chief, while the proud man did not. The first traveled safely wherever he went. If he encountered bandits, he said, I am traveling in the name of such and such tribal leader. And they did not molest him. If he came to some tents, he was treated respectfully due to the name. But the proud man suffered indescribable calamities throughout his journey. He both trembled before everything and begged from everything. He was abased and became an object of scorn. So we did actually talk about cover some of this last week, but briefly we can go from the beginning again. So someone who makes a journey through the deserts of Arabia, and we had talked about how do we see our world as a desert in Arabia? How does it make sense? Like, how can I actually place myself in the story that now Nursi is talking about, these two men? But first, maybe I have to see, do I see myself in the desert, or potentiality of it being a desert of Arabia? Like we were talking, like I was just mentioning earlier, like when I see things for themselves, or if I saw this world as everything for itself, it can very easily turn into a desert, and everything can turn into enemies, and things can seem very bleak. Things can seem like, okay, life is just suffering. We just like kind of randomly exist. It's just suffering. So it's for me, it's very easy to see that how I can understand that I could be living in like a desert. And then he says, I have to travel in the name of a tribal chief and enter under his protection, for in this way he may be safe from the assaults of bandits and secure his needs. Initially, it's almost like has to travel in the name of a tribal chief. Like, it's almost, your ego almost doesn't want it. Maybe we might share this reaction, but when you tell me I have to travel in the name of someone, I have to go to someone and ask them for their permission, I have to ask them for their help, it almost doesn't align with me. And I guess if this was another human being, it's always maybe not going to align too much, because I don't, as mentioned, human beings are limited in their power and their strength. When I go and ask something from someone, there might be a transaction there, or they might not be able to uphold it. There are so many like unknowns. But if I imagine a tribal chief in the sense of like one who is absolute in power, who's absolute in control, who I know that if I seek refuge in them, in any ways, I can't give them anything. Like, there's nothing that they could need from me, but I can seek refuge from them, and through their compassion and mercy, they can like provide that, and they have control over everything. That little feeling of hesitation that I initially had, oh, I have to go to another human and ask them for their help, I have to plead, like that's gone. Instead, I feel this like, of course, if there is an absolute one, if there is one who has all these qualities, who is capable of controlling everything, who doesn't need anything from me, I would love to go and ask them for help. I would love to go seek refuge in them. Yes, go ahead.
This makes me think of how in media, at least, is my voice heard okay, by the way?
Yeah, can you guys hear her?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, it makes me think of how in media, like in movies that we watch, right, or in stories that we read, the character that acts solo is kind of glamorized in one sense, like the cowboy that went rogue, or the military man that has to complete the mission his own way. But these usually characters that somehow discard the name of whoever they're working for do so because there's some sort of deficiency, right? There's some deficiency in perhaps power. There's some deficiency in how justice is enacted. And so there's a sense of, you know what, I'll do it my way and I'll do it better. But when, as you said, the name upon whom I'm acting upon is one of absolute justice, of absolute power, of absolute mercy, of no deficiency, then it becomes like that responsibility is almost lifted from your shoulders. That you can find a point of support that is unyielding. You can find a point of refuge that will not betray you, because that's why it's so difficult to like take the name of another human being, right? There's a sense of, will they really be able to satisfy what I am after? And they can't, as you said, like I'm going to face that betrayal, either intentionally or unintentionally. And so I want one who won't disappoint me, who won't disappoint my human expectations. And in that sense, like, although, and this will just be my last comment, although like oftentimes it feels like, oh, if I'm acting in my own name, at least I'm free, right? Or at least I have my freedom, because that's how I always kind of imagined it. But when you take upon the name of one who is absolute, that becomes freeing for you, because suddenly you're not burdening yourself with tasks that are much beyond your ability anyway. Being able to recognize that it is he who will create what I am in need of, that becomes the sort of ultimate freedom that I can sort of taste and experience the sweetness of.
Definitely. Jazakallah khair for your comments. Please feel free to raise your hands, or ideally raise your hands. Don't just jump in, even though maybe some of you might be inclined to. And even for that, I am open to it, of course. This was a poor joke, so let's just move on. Okay, inshallah. So, someone who makes a journey through the deserts of Arabia has to travel in the name of a tribal chief and enter under his protection. For in this way, he may be saved from the assaults of bandits and secure his needs. Okay, so I think we've covered this part. He will perish in the face of innumerable enemies and needs. And so 2 men went on such a journey and entered the desert. One of them was modest and humble, the other proud and conceited. So I think this is where we left off last week. So we were talking about modest and humble versus being proud and conceited. So the modest and humble one went and sought the name of a tribal chief. I think it's important here that you understand your own weakness, because in one, he understood his own weakness in the face of the desert. One of them did. The other man, who was proud and conceited, he was also weak. He also knew the difficulties of the desert, but he was still, like, within the story, what was required was to go and ask for the name of the tribal chief, ask for the permission, ask for his badge or something. But he was too proud to say he was needy. Maybe he was too arrogant. He didn't want to go before another person and acknowledge his neediness. And because of that, he knowingly went into the desert of Arabia without being prepared. And of course, he's going to face the innumerable enemies due to that. So would anyone like to make a comment about this proud and conceited versus modest and humble? Like why these two concepts are very important. Yes, please go ahead. Brother Brika.
Assalamu alaikum. So this is like related to what you asked. I was thinking about the question, like how this is like such a story is important, like taking a name of a tribal chief, or a travel in the desert and so on. Why author is giving such an example? We are supposed to be studying Iman, belief, and Quran. We say this is a kind of tafsir of Quran. And this first word is supposed to explain the word Bismillah, how it is important, and so on and so forth. And then comes this story. Like we can read it as a story that we relate and get some lessons. It teaches us not to become arrogant or conceited, proud. It teaches us being humble and so on, and then we are done with it. We can take it that way, or we can ask the question how this story is about Iman. How this is a tafsir of Quran. We can ask this question, and when we ask it, we see that when we think about the first revelation, it starts with Iqra, and then continue with the Iqra bismi rabbika allazi khalaq. So read, but don't read it in your name, don't read it in somebody else's name. Read it in the name of your Lord, who created you, who created everything. And so the Quran, actually, the first revelation starts with Bismillah. But because we mentioned this before, but because the word Allah is a proper name, so it should come after some descriptions. Meaning, like if it starts with Iqra Bismillah as the first revelation, then you would ask, like, who's Allah? Therefore, it starts with a description that we can relate to. It starts with your Lord who creates. So the one Lord, meaning the one who's been taking care of you, the one who's been keeping creating you, making you alive, making you full, quenched, so on and so forth. Read in the name of that one. Also, at the on the top of this first word, there is a few ayahs from Surah Fatiha. I'm just trying to check. Sorry. And from Him do we seek help. All praise be to God, the sustainer of all the worlds. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. and then iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, right? So, I'm just checking. Actually, it's not. Yeah, nasta'in, like wa bihi nasta'in. What is included here? I'm checking the original version, the Arabic. So it's not iyyaka nasta'in, but wa bihi nasta'in. And then the other one is the Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. So this first word is the tafsir, the interpretation of these phrases. So we should read it that way and ask question how this story is related. So it's interesting, this phrase is the first one, and from him do we seek help, وَبِهِ نَسْتَعِينُ, or إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. So it starts with some, like a seeking out help, so needs. You are needy, this is your reality. So this is what Quran says, right? According to this first word says, the author here, Imam Nursi, says, this is the interpretation. Quran teaches us, Imam Nursi says, that we are all needy. We all need to take name of someone that we can rely on. And again, Quran teaches us the only one you can rely on is not you or not someone like you, but the tribal chief. So this is the example, of course, metaphorically speaking. So who is the tribal chief in our life? To whom, the praise can go, to whom we can seek help. And as Abdurrahman been mentioning from the beginning, it cannot be someone like us, like any other person, no matter how rich, how powerful, wouldn't satisfy our needs, our human needs. Anything in this world, anything in this creation wouldn't satisfy our needs. Hence, we have to take the name of someone who been taking care of us, who been creating us. So, Bismi Rabbika, the only one that we can take the name is the one who is our Lord. And we have to take somebody's name. There's no option for us that, oh, no, I don't need to seek help. Because this is not true. This is not our reality. Despite all these movies Sister Aisha was referring to, in reality, we cannot create things. We cannot, make things right or wrong. And we find ourselves in the perfect order. We find ourselves in the hand of the all-powerful one, all-merciful one. So there is no reason to go wrong, or there is no way to go wrong. As Quran says, like if you want to go out of my creation, try to go out of my creation. You will not. You cannot. So this story, and then what comes after it, it's like a perfect interpretation of, these verses from Quran. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakumullah, thank you for your those comments. Yeah, thank you. It's definitely when we match it up with the verses that you were mentioning, Ikra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, and then the virtues in the beginning. Wa bihi nasta'in. Nursi is speaking from the inspiration of these verses, like, and from him we seek help. Not from myself, not from people for themselves, not from things for themselves, like money for itself or other things, but from him we seek help. This is the verse. The merciful, the compassionate, sustainer of all the worlds. It's actually beautiful when I look through the verse, like the lens of these verses, and then I see the story that Nursi's presenting. It shows exactly how the verses should be implemented. Yeah.
It also makes me think, like, I was thinking about these traits, right, of modesty and humility versus pride and conceitedness. And in one sense, perhaps it's more accurate to say that one was honest and humble, right? It's not the sort of false modesty or false humility of, oh, I'm actually like, I'm going to be what I'm not. And the other one is conceited or arrogant and dishonesty, because it's not that, oh, look at what I have and I'm proud of it. It's you're impoverished and yet you're pretending you're not. So there's this element of honesty, I think, that is very central, because when I examine myself, like, it's not a question of, okay, am I going to take on, what kind of attitude do I take on in my life when I am in need? Is it one of humility or arrogance? I don't have to force myself into either of those. What I should do is reflect into being entering into an honest state of being, and that honesty will inevitably bring with it humility, because it's an acknowledgement of my true reality, of my true state of being, which is complete impoverishment.
Yeah, for sure. So we will continue, and again, I encourage anyone that would like to make a comment or ask a question, or anything else, to raise their hand, inshallah. So the humble man assumed the name of a tribal chief, while the proud man, the one of them was modest and humble, the other proud and conceited. The humble man assumed the name of a tribal chief, while the proud man did not. And as Brother Bikram was saying, and I think this requires emphasis, is you must take the name of something. One, because you're needy, but two, even if, like, this proud man who didn't take the name of a tribal chief, he's still taking a name. The name he's taking is his own power, his own illusion of power that he's trying to kind of like fake it. He thinks that he doesn't need anyone else. He thinks that he can do it by himself, that he's strong enough to do it. This is exactly what self-help teaches these days, but it's like, fake it, imagine you can do it, all these things. So he takes the name of himself. The other one, the humble man, takes the name of something within the story. It has more weight to it, which is the tribal chief, someone that can actually provide some protection for him. The first traveled safely wherever he went. If he encountered bandits, he said, I am traveling in the name of such and such tribal leader, and they did not molest him. Like, they did not attack him, they did not steal from him, rob him. If he came to some tents, he was treated respectfully due to the name. But the proud man suffered indescribable calamities throughout his journey. He both trembled before everything and begged from everything. He was abased and became an object of scorn. So I have a question for all of you. So it says that the first one, so Nursi claims that the first one, this honest and humble man, he traveled safely wherever he went. And if he encountered bandits, he said, oh no, this is my tribal chief, and they left him alone. And is this just like a story? Like, is this something that I can actually witness in life, where if I say Bismillah, if I take the name of my creator, bandits don't attack me? Like, if I am a Muslim, I pray 5 times a day. I do my obligations, but then I get hit by an earthquake, or I get into a car crash, or
Hardship, right?
or yeah, I get fired from work, or I stub my toe, or my internet stops working. Terrible stuff. How could this happen to me? I mean, I'm not trying to make a joke of when I say internet, because you can get such a narrow mind of like even the most minute things really start like digging into you so deeply, because you just see everything. Like you get triggered by like one little event. Now it's like everything sucks. So my question is this really true? Like, oh, you're a Muslim, you believe, you pray, you take the name of your creator, and then the bandits don't touch you? Like, how is this true, or do you see it in your life? Yes, Atik, go ahead, please.
I would argue on the surface level or on what's obvious, the opposite is true. You're not protected. Instead, you're discriminated. You know, you are always randomly picked to have your bag searched by TSA. You know, people might, you know, think weird things that make assumptions and generalizations about you because you're Muslim. And also you're forced to obligated to pray certain times of the day and fast certain times of the year, eat certain types of food, all that sort of things. I would say, you know, on the surface level, it makes things harder.
Okay, we have two people who are on one side then. Does anyone else think otherwise? I guess we're just reading fantasy over here. Yes, brother Bekam.
I need to say that it's probably about a thief that he's being randomly, searched every time he steps into an airport. So he may, consider, changing something about his look. That's one thing. The second, of course, joking. There is also, like, I want to augment your question. In the middle of the third paragraph on this page that we are seeing, it says the person who acts saying in the name of God resembles someone who enrolls in the army. He acts in the name of the government. He has fear of no one. He speaks, performs every matter, and withstands everything in the name of law and the name of the government. So I guess the analogy, it's like a FBI agent or, any agency agent, CIA, FBI, doesn't matter, and showing you your, his or her, the ID, and you feel obliged to do whatever she wants. So according to, I think this is not true. And what he said is true for sure. Like if we look at the, the society we live in, if you go somewhere and if you need something and you say, in the name of God, Bismillah, give me what I need, they would probably just stare at you, call the manager to accompany you, and then he would, call the security to accompany you. So how this is true then, like what the author is talking about?
Okay, we have 3 people on the same team then. Inshallah, someone has answers.
How I'm understanding it says they did not molest him, right? That when I encounter difficulties in my life, because it's not a matter of do I encounter something difficult or do I not encounter something difficult? No, I definitely encounter difficult things. And I think everyone does, right? We have no control over the kinds of events that we experience. But what I do have, let's say, choice or agency in is how do I respond to that event? And I find that when I read that event, when I approach it in the name of God, in the name of the one who is creating it for me, the one who is educating me through it, I recognize that, oh, they're not even bandits. They're also soldiers of the same king. They're on my team. Whether they know it or not, they're actually employed by him. So in my life, I actually never encounter bandits. I encounter many things, but they all become instructors in so much as they look towards me. I encounter a difficulty, maybe, my boss is being difficult to me, or a family member is being difficult to me. But I see that when I read them in the name of God, I see, oh, my Creator has sent me a teacher. My Creator has sent me an instructor has sent me a messenger through this person. And there, the agony that I experience becomes a sort of transformative relief in one sense. Because again, I do not have to carry that burden. I just have to be open to receiving whatever meaningful message is being sent my way here. That this event, in fact, this moment that I initially regarded as being robbed or molested, is in fact a moment of like holding a mirror up to me and saying, hey, this is who you are. You are needy. Look to your Rabb, look to your educator. This is a moment that will reveal that to you. And then I feel even more at home, secure, because I recognize that my my king, or the one whose name I'm working in, everything is his. Everything is part of his property. Everything is employed by him. He is the disposer of all affairs. It's not possible for me to run into something that is not under his dominion.
Thank you very much for that comment. I also see that Atik has his hand up. Go ahead.
I would say if we are, or if this example is like we are a person or enrolled in the army, there should be some sort of identification, your dog tag, your ID, maybe the police have a badge. What is the official paperwork for being under this tribal chief? Is it the kufi, the hijab, or the sajda mark? What is it?
So the question is, what's the mark of being under this tribal chief? What's the thing that sets them apart or that identifies them? Did I understand the question?
Yeah, I mean, there should be some sort of official, if you're on speaking on behalf of someone, you should have some sort of certified paperwork that says you are speaking on behalf of that person, the king or something.
Yeah, so before I give the mic to you, Brother Bikhan, I think somewhat related to what Atik said, and also what Sister Aisha said. My wife feels odd to say that. Okay, but I think the important point here is when I walk or I act in the name of Bismillah, let's say, in the name of my Creator, and bandits come. I see bandits. What's a better example? For example, in my life, probably a lot of you have shared this. Before I graduated, I was seeking a job, and the bandit there was, I must sustain myself. I need to work really hard. I need to apply everywhere I can, do these perfect interviews so I can get a job, because I must sustain myself. There's no other way. There's God. I was attending discussions, but hey, I need to put in the work, I need to do this, and I need to sustain myself. There's no one else that's going to do it. This was a bandit in my life. And as much as, this bandit, it exists, right? And like, I could say Bismillah to it, or I could show it. Like, I guess you can't, that's not how it works. But no matter what this bandit is, like, I don't think you have to even show anything to it. It's just, it comes at you, it hits you. But then internally you come to this conclusion, or you search because you feel this pain, this heaviness. And then you can just ignore the bandit. You can say that, okay, this is this is maybe a message to me that I need to change something internally, that I need to maybe read this differently. There's something else that needs to be read here. I need to maybe change where I'm seeking help. And then I go and I seek refuge in my creator. I then seek refuge in my sustainer. And then when I do this, it's almost irrelevant what these bandits think or what they see. They could be like in more like a human world, they could be like other people who like quite literally are bandits and who are attacking me or who have robbed me. Like, I don't need them to see some sign on me. I don't need them to like see, like, I don't need to be like, hey, Bismillah, you need to stop or something. No, they do whatever they're going to do. But internally, through this light of Bismillah, through seeing that everything is in the creation of, or in the dominion of my creator, in his control, then I see that these bandits, they're not bandits, or they don't have power by themselves. And then through this light of belief, I can read them as messages. And then I can, instead of becoming enemies to me, I can see, I'm talking too much before Brother Bikram, but I wanted to make this point. So I think that when we read this story, we see that the proud man gets attacked by bandits and he's ruined. And the modest man gets attacked by bandits. And he says, no, I have the name of the tribal chief. And they leave him alone, right? I think one way we can understand the story is the modest man also gets attacked by bandits. Probably he also got beat up. Probably his money got stolen. But internally, or in his worldview, or his peacefulness, or his happiness, his joy, because he was, let's say, a perfectly humble man who knew to seek refuge in like the tribal chief or the creator, he wasn't ruined. Like, the bandits were not able to molest him or ruin him, or they were not able to like make him stumble, because he knew that they were also part of like the creator. I think that's one way that could also be understood. So, yeah, Brother Bikram, go ahead. Anyways.
Assalamu alaikum again. I think the Afiq's question is a wonderful one, and I can even say, it's personally what I think. It is like the very of this topic that we are studying. So the Bismillah is just a phrase, right? With the name of Allah. And as I said before, the Allah is a proper name. Like, by itself, it doesn't say anything. So for instance, if I say, if I go to a room and I say, in the name of Abdurrahman, and if people don't know who Abdurrahman is, they would just look at me and, maybe at best smile. So Bismillah by itself does not say much. Like, we need some, let's say, paperwork, some certification that show that we are talking in the name of the right one. And what is this certification? What is this paperwork? Or what is, this ID? So we said, in the name of the person who acts saying in the name of God resembles someone who enrolls in the army. So what army is obvious. He acts in the name of the government. What government is obvious. everybody knows, everybody will listen, and so on and so forth. And we will know that, I have attached to the right place. So I think it goes back, like I was thinking about the phrases we read at the very beginning. There's another part at the on the top of the first word. It goes as وَالصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَى سَيِّدِنَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ أَجْمَعِينَ. So blessing and the salam, be peace and blessings be on be to our master Muhammad, and to his family and his Sahaba, the companions, all of them. I was thinking, how this is important. Is it just because this is the first chapter of the book, the author is just being nice and being respectful, being a pious religious person, so he's sending salat to the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. But then with a fixed question, I guess it became clear that it's not just that. Probably it is partly just being respectful. But at the same time, I think Imam Nursi, our Ustad, he's telling us that this is your paperwork. This is the path that you should be taking. This is the tribal chief that you should be taking. I'm not referring to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam when I say tribal chief, but the one he points to. When we look around, when we look at other people's other ideologies and so on and so forth, almost everybody, like forget about the stupid ones who thinks that they can self-sufficient, they are self-sufficient. I am powerful, I am rich, I can do whatever I want, I don't need anything, and so on and so forth. These are probably just a minority. Forget about them. Almost everybody else thinks that they are acting in the name of a certain power that they call as God or something else. Some would say, to attain the peace and to, get a satisfying life, free from the bandits, you should, become a blank page. You shouldn't think. You should just empty your mind, take deep breath, and so on and so forth. Some others would say, oh, no, you should find the infinite power in you. Some others would say, you should rely on the Son of God who will fill in you and make you full of love, and so on and so forth. How am I going to know that I am taking the name of the right one? Not the infinite power in me, or the emptiness, or son of something. How am I going to know that I'm not living in the name of Zeus, or some other gods, some other idols? How am I going to know? And I guess author is saying that you should find the one who represents the true one on earth through his life. Look at the life of this, the representative, the Rasul. Find him, there must be such one. Find him. And when you look at his life, when you look how he lived, how his family lived, how his companions, meaning his students, okay, how his students lived, when you study them And when you confirm that the life, the worldview they suggest perfectly fits to your humanity, your needs, and works for you, then you would know that this is the true path that I'm taking. I am acting in the name of the one who is the creator, the real creator, the real Rab, not a false idol. So you need this exemplar. You need this example life in front of you so that you can check. So his life, his students' lives will act as a paperwork for you. It will tell you that, okay, this is the true government. How do you know? Look at our lives. Look at the world view that we give you, and then try it, and you will know it. You will immediately know the difference between emptying your mind or just taking deep breaths, or finding the infinite power in you, or relying on like having a blind faith of a son that will fill you with the infinite love. You will know the difference because you will see the paperwork. So it's a real life that was lived.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah, thank you for also bringing attention to this salawat upon the Prophet and where that also fits in this path of taking the name of the tribal chief. Like I take the name of the tribal chief, meaning my creator, the one who I seek refuge from, but at the same time, I am not following my own, let's say, path. I'm following the path that has kind of been laid out to me, or there's a guide on this path who I'm following as well, who he is also taking the name of this tribal chief, the name of God, and I can follow in his footsteps, and the others that are following him, and his family, his companions, and learn from them, seek guidance from them. Yeah. And we can continue, inshallah. But the proud man suffered indescribable calamities throughout his journey. He both trembled before everything and begged from everything. He was abased and became an object of scorn. This is painting the picture. And in one sense, I feel like we've covered it and we keep repeating it, but I also think it's worth repeating because we might not think we're in this state, or we might have this belief that, oh, that's not me. I think here there's two extremes. One is maybe the path of one who lives only in the name of his creator, like living Bismillah, very like binary 100%. And the other one is like a proud and conceited, only living in his own name and getting ruined by the desert. We're probably somewhere in the middle, sometimes a bit higher, sometimes lower, depending on circumstances. But like we might fall into the state where, I am not a proud man. I'm not living in my own name. And then I'll get hit by a calamity and I won't say, oh, it's because I'm proud. It's because I'm arrogant. Things will start feeling very hard for me. I'll be like, why is God doing this to me? I'll be like, nothing makes sense. I'll fall into these other questioning, but I'll never turn to myself like, wait a second, are you a proud man? Are you conceited? Whose name are you living in? Are you saying Bismillah? Do you think you are sustaining yourself, or is your creator sustaining you? When you go to work, are you working for yourself, or are you the one earning the money, or is it being given to you? Is your wealth yours? It's like, people are out on the streets. They didn't work hard. I worked hard. I deserve this. Like, I think it's very easy to fall into this mindset of being proud and conceited, thinking you are the one supporting yourself. And like the biggest message and the clear message of it is, if you feel pain about anything, or do you feel hardship or burden about anything in your life, and the second you feel that burden and hardship, it should be like a alarm. It's like, oh wait, there's like a maybe I'm not looking at this correctly. I'm not reading this correctly. Like it should be an instant message saying, oh, I'm not doing this correctly. Like the other way to look at pain is like, oh, I need to, as Brother Rikhan said, like stoicism. I just need to take deep breaths, ignore it. It's going to go away. I just got to grit my teeth and just like let it go. I don't care about anything. This is just life. It happens. Like sometimes some calamities happen, and you just have to deal with it. I'm just going to die sometimes. You can have this approach where then you learn nothing from this pain, and then you're going to experience it again because you haven't solved it. So even like for myself, especially for myself, like the difficulties I go through daily, I'm not like talking about the biggest events, just like daily, the things I go through every hour. If there's like pain and burden, then it's a message to sit down and take a deep breath and maybe say Bismillah, or take a deep breath and make dua, or say salawat, or reorient. Like, who are you speaking in the name of? Who are you reading the world in the name of? Like, I feel like the audience makes me talk too much. Okay, inshallah. Oh, thank you so much, HKZ. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I think there's something to be said about what you last said about, oftentimes in these examples that were presented, there's two people that are at opposite ends of the spectrum, to kind of highlight those differences that they're going through. And in reality, I am both, in the sense that I am in between both of them, and I may lean one way or another in my day-to-day life. And I was also thinking about the question, like in relation to what you said about this point, and the question about like the certificate as well, like what is the indication or the tag or whatever. And I think in part it's also about, finding myself in this sort of a desert by myself with a lot of enemies is a sort of rite of passage. I have to experience that, so that I can kind of seek refuge from it. Otherwise, I would not recognize the need to even take on the name of a tribal chief or leader. So that is in a way necessary, and a sort of mercy for me, so that I can kind of turn my face towards a certain direction. At the same time, I think, it's not, since I do find myself between these two extremes, it's not black and white, and I might find that these enemies become friends on certain days, and perhaps they seem more enemy-like on other days. But it's a process of transforming those enemies into friends, or perhaps, as Aisha was saying, seeing the reality of the enemies to truly actually always be my friends. So in fact that I am always, even that pain, maybe I'm arrogant and I'm being conceited, and maybe I'm trying to attain something and I'm like, oh, why can't I attain this? Then that's a sort of mercy for me. That's a sort of friend for me saying, hey, you're turning the wrong way, come back. Of course I have to utilize it in the correct way. So I think it's a process of befriending these enemies and learning to become friends with them, seeing their true nature faster and more quickly and more efficiently. That isn't to say that finally I say Bismillah, so everything is suddenly beautiful, and it might be at times, but I think the reality of the human experience is that I'm going to go through those ups and downs. And it's a matter of practicing and a matter of strengthening that muscle, and using it over and over again in different sort of ways that it presents itself to me, in different situations where I can utilize it. And I think, it's never like, oh, I can never claim I've fully, taken on the name of a tribal chief, because of just my nature. But at the same time, I think I can also, within my experiences, say, look, I experience that I'm not with enemies anymore, more so than my previous experiences, in kind of going through this experiential and existential journey. So I think that that sort of a from that sort of a lens, then everything is welcomed, even though it might not be preferable. And it also means that even if I've strengthened this muscle, it doesn't mean that I'm going to like everything that happens to me, right? I'm still going to find some things unpreferable, and other things more preferable to myself. And I might still experience sadness and anger and injustice and all those stuff, but uh, through this lens, then I can also befriend them, because again, I can take it back to myself, and um, take it back to my creator, who gave me that preference for something.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. This idea of befriending, it almost seems undoable, but it's also so beautiful because, like, for example, sickness, or let's say like your back hurts, or these pains that you have, like, you can look at these pains and be like, oh, you're a friend that has come and is reminding me I am not eternal on this world. I am not here forever. I am not independent. I am not living. I am not supposed to carry my own burdens. Like, this thing is coming to me and talking to me about my neediness. And I can see it as a friend there because it's speaking truth to me. And because it's speaking truth to me, then I can turn my gaze, or I can now reorient myself, say Bismillah, in the name of my creator. I ask him for help. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. And then, like, I can seek refuge in him. So, like, these reminders, these friends who come and we hate them, we get sick or we get hungry, we must immediately, like, get rid of this feeling. Something hurts, immediately get rid of this feeling. But there's like a message there that's kind of trying to call you to some truth, a reminder if you listen to it. So, like, it's definitely possible to see them as friends. Maybe in the moment it's difficult, but as you said, as you strengthen maybe that muscle, or you increase like that practice, and you try to be like consistent about it, then you attend discussions like this and you do readings yourself, inshallah, then it can get easier. And it's something that you even need. It's not like a pursuit of knowledge. It's like a pursuit of finding happiness in your own life. So, like, it's something you need for yourself. And then, so the next paragraph, she says, my proud soul, you are the traveler. So he's calling his soul proud. Me, I should be speaking to myself here as well. I'm speaking to myself, my proud self. You are the traveler, and this world is a desert. Your impotence and poverty have no limit, and your enemies and needs are endless. Since it is thus, take the name of the pre-eternal ruler and post-eternal lord of the desert, and be safe from begging before the whole universe and trembling before every event. Yeah, I'd love to hear your comments on this, like, maybe just to get it started. Some Remembering like what Teek said, it's like, oh, you're at the airport, you get picked on, or maybe somewhere else you're outside, you get picked on, you almost feel like this need, and I feel too, like at workplace, like I don't necessarily want to pray in public. I want to try to hide it. Or when I take wudu, I want to like, I don't like want everyone to see it. I'd rather be a more private place. So it's like I almost feel like I just need to like hide it away. But then here it says something completely different, where you take the name of this pre-eternal ruler, this post-eternal Lord, and you're safe from begging before others. You don't tremble before others. You're not scared before them. Like, you know, these people at the airport, they come to pick on you, and you would say whatever. Like, my creator controls you guys. You know, you could say it to their face too if you want. But internally, at least you say, you're just a creation of my creator. Who do you think you are? And then similarly, if I sometimes try to like think about this at work. It helps. Probably you guys have your own methods. Like if I need to go pray, or like if it's somewhere a little bit more public, I'm like, my creator has commanded this, and this company building only exists in his hands. So like, come try to stop me or something. Like bring myself to some courage or something. Like, yeah. So it's like it's like, because there's this, we find that truth where like, yeah, with this name of Bismillah, like you must be able to find that courage. You're not even courage, like that truth that your creator, the pre-eternal Lord, I don't know what the translation is, but like the pre-eternal ruler and the post-eternal Lord, like there is no limit on time. There's no limit on anything, without limit, without boundary. Everything in his control. And if you can conclude this, if you can believe this, and then you can act according to this, like nothing can really like phase you. So the translation is Maliki Abedi and Hakim Ezeli. Yeah.
That everything is his mulk. It's all his dominion.
Yeah, maybe just like a question here. Are you begging? Be safe from begging. Like we've kind of talked about, but like, well, maybe I could ask you. Okay, instead of begging, I mean, you're still begging to your creator. Maybe. You're still. You really want. For example, you really want to get this Tesla. You keep asking for it, and your creator doesn't give it to you. Okay, you ask it from your creator, and he doesn't give it to you. You might as well just go ask it from like your job or your boss, and he probably won't give it to you either. What's really the difference? You're begging still from your creator for something that you really want, and he's not giving it. Maybe you really wanted a really big house, but then circumstances you can't do it. So what? Okay, I can either beg to my creator for a really big house, or I can go beg to my job and my money or whatever, get out of like this school, like this really prestigious school, so I can get an amazing job, and then I can get a house, maybe. Like this idea of begging, like is it possible that I can be begging before my creator? Is this a concept that can exist? I personally think you could definitely fall into the state of begging before your creator, where it's probably not so nice. I'm really just trying to rise some controversy around here, but no one's taking the bait. Okay, then I'll just say, like, I guess what I'm hearing that Brother Bacon opened his mic. Is that true? I guess not. So, the term of begging, I think it caught my attention because I feel like you could also be begging before your creator, and it doesn't sound nice. It doesn't probably even feel nice. Like as I was saying, if I'm so, I could fall into the state where I'm trying to live with Bismillah or this and that, but then there's something I really, 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 really want. It could be a house, it could be a job, it could be something in my life, and I really want it. and everything else I try to live it. Like it's okay if I don't get it. Like, you know, a bandit comes and punches me, or I don't get a certain thing doesn't go my way. That's fine. I'm like, okay, there's probably a message here. There's truth here. I'll try to read it. But then the place where I really wanted something, like I didn't want a Mercedes. I wanted a Tesla. But then my parents bought me a Mercedes, and now I'm so extremely angry. You know, like, how could this happen to me? Like, how could you do this to me? You know, and I go probably to my parents and I beg them, please just get me a Tesla. Please just get me a Tesla. I don't want this. You know, yeah, the Tesla, it's an amazing vehicle. You know, I got to give it credit. So my point being this. Atik, go ahead. I'll let you make your comment.
Well, I was just saying, you know, whether you're begging the creation or begging Allah for certain things, some things, right, they're not worthy of begging for, regardless of, you know, who it is. It makes more sense to beg the individual who can provide a thing more than another needy poor person. But some things are not that doesn't make it a good thing to beg for any possible thing, right? Like, if I'm a kid, when I'm a kid, you know, I wanted the newest video game console, right? I can beg my parents, they can give it to me or not, or I can beg God and he can give it to me or not. But I think in either case, begging for a video game console is like the most pointless thing. So the question is, how do you determine what is worth begging for or not, and whether there is something worth begging for, right? Like, is there a spectrum, a determination of, oh, this is worth it or this is not worth it, right? Something like that.
Yes, brother. Suhail, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, just to touch on what Atik said. So he says, your enemies and needs are endless. So I guess the question is, what are those needs? Thus take the name of the pre-eternal ruler and post-eternal lord of the desert, and be saved from begging. You are the traveler in this world's a desert. It's interesting, because I don't know exactly what he means by the world is a desert, other than like is the world fundamentally empty? I guess maybe this sounds a bit like Sufi in some sense, but like, is it empty? Is there nothing there really? So to what Atik was saying, like, I can ask for, like, I can ask for whatever I want, in his case, he said like a gaming system. But like, what am I really asking for? If I could step back, yeah, I mean, it might be, somebody made something and there's wonderful technology here, and it really took some thought and some really ingenuity to come up with something. But like, what am I really asking for? That's like, and like, I kind of go through the same thing, like some things that I want that look nice or engineered nicely or some sort of technology. Yeah, I want it. But then I ask myself, like, and then if I get it, if I so happen to get it, then the moment I get it, I realize, like, okay, this is it. That was it. So I got it, but then what am I going to do with it now? Because it, like, as they say in America, buyer's remorse. Like, you buy something and people have buyer's remorse. Like, they want something so badly and they buy it and they're like, oh, well, I don't like this aspect or this aspect, and now this has this issue and I got to deal with this or that and the other. So in some sense, like, at least what I understand from Nursi is that, my life is just in entering one door and leaving the other. And in between those two doors is the desert. And really, what is there in essence here that really is going to satisfy me. Nothing. That's why it's a desert. It's empty. It's just sand as far as the eye can see. It's just dust in some sense, as far as the eye can see. That's all the world really is, just dust. And sometimes in the way that dust is arranged, those particles arranged, like if you think about, like you bring up the Tesla example, if you think about it in some sense, you go back to how a vehicle originated. It's really just particles. It's really just something in the ground. Like I wouldn't think twice about like iron ore when I walk by iron ore or lithium or whatever is needed to make a vehicle. I don't find that attractive, but in some way, in a way it's assembled. Oh, then I find it attractive. And if I look back at just like, what is it in its essence? That's all it is. It's dust. And that sort of is not satisfactory. So, well, if anything, probably I'm maybe putting it down a little bit, or things in general. Your impotence and poverty have no limit, and your enemies and needs are endless. And to me, the needs being endless sort of speaks to eternity. And I guess maybe that's what my real need is that satisfaction, but eternal satisfaction. In contrast to my endless poverty and endless impotence and poverty in this world, and my need for endless satisfaction. The two, it's contradictory, it would seem so, or it's a paradox, but the two don't align with one another, the world and my needs. So I think Norsi says, I forget what other part of the words or something, he says like, throw away the shell or the husk, and I don't know the exact words, somebody may know better, and then take what it means or what it points to as like some sort of satisfaction. And I because things point to a pre-eternal ruler and post-eternal Lord, in some sense my needs point to those same one also. So looking to things themselves which are not pre-eternal, which are not post-eternal, which are just an endless desert, then it's not satisfactory. And the only thing that is satisfactory is the Lord and ruler of that desert. So otherwise, in some sense, begging, if I take it literally, yeah, I could be, asking somebody for something. But in some sense, begging also, even people who are wealthy beg. Like, people who have more money than I can ever imagine. Let's say the owner of Tesla, they have their own problems, life problems. And you would think like, oh, these people have all this money, they would be, satisfied. But no, apparently that's not the case. Because people are always begging for something from this world. Some sort of like something that's satisfying to the ego, whether it's more money, fame, prestige, recognition, appreciation, and always looking to things to sort of satisfy that. So, and that's kind of what, man does, myself included. So, but those are my 2 cents, if that's worth anything.
No, thank you, Jazakumullah khair. I think to maybe like combine what you and Atik said, my understanding from that, and it has helped, is, yeah, maybe I could be begging for these things, but the true need I have is not for this new video game console or this big house or this Tesla or something else that I've kind of like narrowed my gaze on. I really, really want it. I could maybe really, really want it, but my true need is not that. My true need, like, I could be begging for it, but it's not useful for me. My true need goes past that to something eternal. So it's good that it's not given. I can say. We have a hand up over here. Please go ahead.
So Suhail's comments might have made my the comments I wanted to make a bit redundant, because I think he perfectly highlighted it. But I just wanted to say 2 things, perhaps. One, that a desert is a place that makes very clearly known to me my needs. I go to a desert and the hot sun is blazing on me. I'm thirsty. I need shelter. I need shade. I need refuge. I need security. There's like, I feel that a desert is, especially maybe amongst other landscapes, a place that makes very specifically known to me how impoverished I am, how needy I am. And the world is just like that too, right? But the world, everywhere I'm constantly encountering my needs. Oh, not just I'm hungry and I'm thirsty, but I need to feel valued in these relationships. I need to feel successful. I need to feel productive. I need to feel like I'm progressing. I need to feel secure. I need to feel happy. And constantly this world and the way it exists, this existence, the structure of this existence makes very clearly known to me how needy I am, just like a desert does. And related to this, I guess, is perhaps what Brother Birkan was saying at the beginning of the halakha, right? That it's not a matter of whether you take someone's name or not, but whose name are you going to take, because you're constantly active in someone's name. And similar to that, I think it's not a matter of whether I should beg or not, but who am I going to beg from? Because I'm in a constant state of begging. I'm begging from my job. I'm begging from my school. I'm begging from my relationships. I'm begging for value. I'm begging for money. I'm begging for to feel loved. I'm begging to stay young, right? Like I exercise. I wear sunscreen. I take my vitamins. The moment that something goes wrong in my body, I immediately go to the doctor. Why? I want it fixed. I'm begging in my state of being for to not die, to be eternal in one sense. Like I find these beggings sort of intrinsic to the way that I live in this world. I can't help but beg. So who should I beg from? And to me, it's very clear that, well, whoever gave me these needs, whoever can actually fulfill them in the most sort of compassionate way. So I wanted to highlight this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think maybe there is a nuance there, for at least for me. The term begging, it's almost negative. Like even this idea of begging from my creator, it doesn't seem pleasant to me. And I think that's because when you're begging, you're very focused on the physical return of something. At least maybe that's how I see it. It's like if I'm begging to get healthy, for example, from a medicine pill, what I want is to get healthy. Like that's what I'm begging for. Instead of like begging for the medicine pill, if I'm begging my creator, I'm saying Ash-Shafi, and then I take the medicine pill. But really, what I'm really asking for and I'm begging for is just give me help, give me help. That's all I want. Ash-Shafi is almost like it's like a magical spell or something. Like, and I constantly keep saying it. I feel like I'm begging to my creator, like, hey, why aren't you doing it? Are you not hearing me? Did you abandon me? Like, this is kind of the bad connotation that this begging has for me. I think maybe, I don't know if Nursi uses a different word for the believer or the modest one, but it's maybe supplication, or how was it in the verse? It's, and from him do we seek help. And maybe these are just terms, but they mean different things to me, like seeking help. And from him do we seek help. Like, all praise be to God, sustainer of all the worlds. It seems like a completely different approach, where I could be taking that medicine pill again, but it's more about the consciousness. It's like the one who gave me sickness is him. The one who gave me the medicine pill is him. Whether or not he gives me health after, that's up to him as well. But the way he created me, the purpose of my creation is the way I should act is I should take this medicine pill in his name, and I should be grateful if he gives me health in his name. And if he keeps giving me sickness, I should still be grateful in his name, or I should read it in his name. It's like no matter what outcome it is, like I'm not begging for a certain outcome that, usually I can find myself begging for just specific outcome. And when it doesn't happen, I feel like I've been abandoned. And there's like verses about this in the Quran. But this state of God consciousness or seeking help from him, it's more comprehensive than that, where regardless of the outcome, in every single scenario, every single case, you take his name and you seek help from him. And that's maybe just like the one nuance I kind of saw with the term begging, and how maybe I shouldn't become a beggar even of like items or materials or different things for my creator as well. I think we're out of time. I would love for anyone who has final comments or thoughts or questions for next week to say them. If not, then we can end here, inshallah, and we'll see each other next week to continue on the first word. May God help us live in the name of Bismillah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Sayyidina Muhammad. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا إن الحمد لله